And we will now turn it over to Darlene Blair from Canada to give us her update.
Great, thanks very much, Jay. Let's see if I can get my presentation going. Oops, starting on slide like 7. Can you see me out, see the presentation?
All right, presentation's up, and yep, we just went to slide, so you're good to go.
Perfect. So thank you very much. Always appreciate the opportunity to be able to spend some time with the National Plant Board, and pleased to be here today to present a bit of a report on what's been happening in Canada over the past, and I guess it's actually 2 years that we're talking about. So I always start with a little bit of a, why is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency talking about plant health? And always, I know we got a little list from your president of particular pests that you might be interested in hearing about, and added a few of our own, and of course, ending with a few closing thoughts about what's happening between our 2 countries. So I know it's always interesting when you come in, why is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency talking about plant health? I think probably most of you are aware of why that is, but of course the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, we're the equivalent, we're Canada's national plant protection organization, and so we carry out the plant health regulatory part of what PPQ does. And so we have that common mandate with PPQ.
Recording in progress.
So we protect Canada's agriculture, forestry, natural resources from the economic and environmental impact of introduced plant pests. And of course, this relates to imports, exports, as well as domestic spread. And so we're looking at regulating import, export, domestic movement of plant products and anything that can move a plant pest. And we also, of course, facilitate access to foreign markets from a phytosanitary perspective. Like PPQ, we have federal partners and agencies, our CBP equivalent, the Canada Border Services Agency, as well as Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, which carries out a lot of the research, like the other parts of APHIS, and Natural Resources Canada, which has the Canadian Forest Service, which looks after the forestry parts of the mandate. We also have our provincial and territorial governments who are partners in many of our activities that we carry out, industry, academia, community scientists, which I do want to talk about a little today, and of course, other contracting parties to the IPPC who play a large role in helping to keep us safe from plant pests in those jurisdictions. So just to, and Craig Regelberg talked a little bit about some of these things. So Canada, US, we do have a lot of plant health initiatives between our 2 countries. The Greenhouse Certification Program, for example, very important. And of course we are, as Craig mentioned, coming up on that September deadline and folks hopefully have their eye on the ball to get across that line. Our AGM program, where we do share, we actually collaborate and we work bilaterally and with 3rd countries on our Asian gypsy moth, or I know we're looking for another name for that organism at this time. We're calling it AG moth, working with 3rd countries on that North American Sea Container Initiative, again, collaborating on those solutions, e-commerce that Craig Noble talked about a little bit. Again, really looking for that collaboration with the US and having those common approaches. Solutions for Canada-US in transit issues, so when containers are moving across our countries into the other country but aren't from that country, intentionally imported organisms like earthworms and biocontrol, information sharing, and of course, our approaches to 3rd country engagement. So we do have a lot in common and that we're working on together in a consolidated and collaborative way with 3rd country partners and between our 2 countries. Now, I don't know, a couple of people have mentioned different things that have happened during COVID. And I know one of the things that's happened in Canada is a lot more people seem to be getting outside. And we're really having the last couple of years been focusing on community science. And this is something, some people call it citizen science. We're calling it community science to be more inclusive. But like the United States, Canada has a very vast and varied plant resource base. In order to maintain plant health in that extensive landscape, we just can't do it by ourselves. And so we really are working to bring in everyone in Canada, whether citizens, visitors, everybody, trying to help us to figure out, to keep an eye on what's happening in the plant health space in Canada. And we've come up with a little kind of statement: it takes a community to raise a plant. So of course, community science, also known as citizen science, crowdsourced science, etc. But basically that distributed surveillance network that involves a community with a broad range of science backgrounds and interests. We've actually already had quite a lot of focus on community science. For example, there are old and new tools around community science and social media. Of course, a lot of things are popping up on social media, and we're finding it was taking a lot of our time just to try and monitor the airwaves, as it were. So we currently have a project to use artificial intelligence to basically troll through things like Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Reddit, whatever is out there, to try and make sure that we're catching things as they come up. And we actually talk a bit about it in a minute. We actually have found a lot of pests using social media. We're creating pest cards. Again, that's sort of the old way with paper, pest cards, signs, and tattoos that tend to have good uptake with the public. So I did mention we do have a number of examples of community science in action. A number of pests in Canada have been detected, not by CFIA inspectors or even provincial or territorial inspectors, but by other members of our community in Canada. And that applies to European cherry fruit fly, to box tree moth, Japanese stilt grass, a number of different snails, Japanese chaff flower, jointed goat grass, Asian longhorn beetle, and elm zigzag sawfly. So we're busy trying to make sure that we are providing our community scientists with the information that they need to know when there is a new pest in an area. We're also conducting social media campaigns to acquire data on specific pests. An example of that is when we were looking at the European cherry fruit fly problem, and we wanted to figure out where the invasive honeysuckle or Lonicera was located in Canada. And so we relied on our community scientists to help us with that. And they're also supporting community-based urban forest monitoring programs for Asian longhorn beetle and oak wilt. So a lot going on in that community science space. I wanted to use an example. So of course, I don't need to explain to anybody here what spotted lanternfly is. Of course, very impressive, colorful insect, easily identified in Canada by its unique coloration. Can't be really confused with any other moths or leaf hoppers. It is a recognized threat to our grapefruit tree and forest industries, with our highest risk locations being Southern Ontario, parts of Quebec, and British Columbia. So recognizing, and again, no news to you, first detected in North America in Pennsylvania in September of 2014, and has since spread to multiple US states. It is not known to exist in Canada, but it is a regulated pest for us. And like you, we totally are focused on early detection activities that would make managing the pest easier. And there are, as you know, many pathways for introduction. So community science in action, what happens, kind of an amusing story. On July 16th, 2020, a picture of spotted lanternfly instars was posted on What's This Bug on Reddit by a user in Mississauga, Ontario. Mississauga is part of Toronto. So by July 17th, Twitter was in full action, linking responders, both from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and provinces, with invasive species organizations, interested entomologists, and others. Later that day, we got the good news. The person that had posted that picture, got the picture from his mother, who'd happened to have gotten it from her friend in New Jersey. So the picture was taken in New Jersey and not in not in Canada. So many people were happy about that, but we were very interested to see how social media and community science could play such an important role in getting an early identification of something that was happening. So just on spotted lanternfly, so of course we are quite concerned about spotted lanternfly. So we are, and so the whole border closure thing, although we do miss our friends and family from the United States, it has been in a way a bit of a blessing that we're not getting a lot of private traffic moving between the infested areas and up into Canada. So we're busy updating pest risk analysis, incorporating additional information on economic impacts, developing outreach materials, regulating nursery stock pathway, working on other pathways, including working with our Canada Border Services Agency on border controls. The reason why we're doing that, we've actually found some dead spotted lanternflies in the grills of commercial trucks that are coming into Canada. And so really kind of gave us the wake-up call that we need to perhaps up our game a bit about what's going on. We, of course, taking note of experience in the United States, doing research, for example, on cold tolerance or the impact of having tree of heaven close to our vineyards. And we have barcoding in place and ready for identification purposes. So a lot going on with spotted lanternfly. Okay, so the pests and programs part. So of course, this is part of the presentation. We talk about some specific pests and programs in Canada. So this year's surveys, and I think we always put this slide in, this year's surveys are still underway and will continue into the fall. Of course, it's summer season for Canada. Our annual survey report summaries are available on our website at www.inspection.gc.ca, and our full survey reports are available on request. Simply request them through the link that is on the website. So one thing I've done in past years, so for anybody that's new, is sometimes when we talk about where things are located, unless you like have a great geographic understanding of Canada, it might not mean anything. So again, this year we'll use these maps, and this example being, for example, PCN, that shows that the pest is present in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, just a little area south in this southern part of Quebec, and on the tip of Vancouver Island. So we'll use those maps again this year to talk about some of the pests that are in Canada and what we're doing with them. So one of the first pests, or one of the ones that we did get a request to talk a little bit about, was Asian giant hornet. There is no map at this time. Although there are some incursions with Asian giant hornet, we don't have any areas we're regulating for it. So of course, Asian giant hornet, or Vespa mandarinia, native to Eastern Asia, predator of other wasps, large insects, and honeybees. We did have a detection in Canada in August of 2019 in Nanaimo, and Nanaimo is on Vancouver Island on the west coast. Ground, it was a colony underground, and it was wiped out by some of our beekeepers. So what was happening there? So we've assessed the risk, and I know it's getting a lot of discussion with our APHIS colleagues about this. We have assessed the risk and the risk management options around Vespa mandarinia, and we have posted a risk management decision document on our website. Basically, what's happening is CFIA is restricting the intentional import of Asian giant hornet into Canada. We will continue to review requirements as more information becomes available about the hornet's risk to plant health. But at this time, the lead for response is the province where the pest is reported, although CFIA continues to engage provinces when there are incursions reported. And right now, to my knowledge, it's British Columbia, again, on the west coast, is the only province where we have had any confirmed reports of Vespa mandarinia in the province. I want to talk a little bit about Japanese beetle. That's another one of great interest. So Japanese beetle, let me get a laser going here. So Japanese beetle is established in parts of Canada. So it is established in Ontario and Quebec, but not in Newfoundland and Labrador. So Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantic provinces other than Newfoundland or Labrador. I think my pointer's stuck on your part of the screen. And we also have it doesn't, in the saying it's not established in the West. We believe it won't establish there based on pest risk assessment, but it isn't there. And we have this small amount of Japanese beetle that is in the Metro Vancouver area. So that, am I going to stick? Uh-oh. Sorry, my slides seem to be stuck. All right, well, I'll just keep talking and hopefully it'll unstick. So Japanese beetle, we do have a Japanese beetle eradication program that's in its 4th year. And again, in that Metro Vancouver area on our west coast. It is, it's led by the province of British Columbia and has various government and industry stakeholders involved. We are surveying for Japanese beetle, ooh, yay, fixed it, in the regulated area. In the regulated area and throughout Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Detections are expected, of course, the flying season in that particular area is from June 15th to October 15th. And results will help to assess whether treatments by the city of Vancouver and the province of BC are working as expected. Bottom line on what's happening with Japanese beetle in the province of British Columbia, it has been extremely successful. We have had a massive reduction in the number of beetles that we are detecting each year, even though we've actually gone from ground level traps to canopy traps, which are much more effective at trapping beetles. So we are really pleased with our collaboration on Japanese beetle, and it really has been a great success. So CFIA will publish the full survey results on our website at the end of 2021, but again, going very much in the right direction in this, our 4th year. European cherry fruit fly, again, folks want to talk a little bit about European cherry fruit fly. Kind of scared me a bit. I'm not going to use the pointer, but I think you can see we've got the ragged red line around the province of Ontario. So even though European cherry fruit fly has really only been found, or had mostly been found in the area of Toronto and down in the very end of southern Ontario, we're regulating the entire province of Ontario for European cherry fruit fly. So as you know, probably the most serious pest of cherries in Europe. Damage to fruit by larval feeding can result in losses of up to 100% if controlled. We first detected it in an urban park in Mississauga, Ontario in June of 2015. Again, this was a citizen scientist who found this, which is why it was actually a year later that it was confirmed. So June 2016, when European cherry fruit fly was confirmed in Mississauga. Follow-up surveillance shows no, and right from the start, follow-up surveillance has shown no detections in commercial cherry production. It's been found only in association with invasive Lonicera species or invasive honeysuckle and wild prunus. It's considered established in Ontario and it's not known to occur in the rest of Canada. So that's where we are on European cherry fruit fly. I should mention that we were asked, because of the large area that's being regulated, the whole province of Ontario, that state of Michigan asked us to do some trapping along the Ontario-Michigan border, recognizing the importance of the cherry industry in that state, which we did last year, and did not detect European cherry fruit fly in that vicinity. Box tree moth, so you will, it's going to freeze again, see if it freezes. There's a tiny little, I hope you can see the pointer, a tiny little area down on the sort of tip of Ontario with a dotted line. And there's a reason why that is a dotted line. Box tree moth is not a regulated pest in Canada. So again, my slides are going to stick a little bit there. So I'll just keep going until they unstick. Box tree moth is not a regulated pest in Ontario, in Canada. Native to Australia, or at least to Australia, to Asia, box tree moth causes severe damage to boxwood, as you know. Has been introduced into and is widespread in Europe, where there are native boxwoods. Box tree moth was detected in Toronto in August of 2018 and confirmed by CFIA later that year. And again, there are no native boxwoods in Canada, and there's a relatively small area of Canada where boxwood will actually overwinter. So it's a bit of an interesting pest for us. And we are currently in discussions with our industry about regulatory status and where to go down the road. So very good collaboration between City of Toronto, our industry stakeholders, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, in terms of working on box tree moth. So in 2020, the infestation was limited to an area in the City of Toronto, but in 2021, it has been found in the Niagara area, including close to the border with New York State. And Craig talked a little bit about box tree moth, so I won't go into any more details, but we can talk about more in questions if folks would like. So when we did detect, and just as a note, when we did detect the box tree moth in Toronto in August of 2018, it was by a community scientist, and there is an online publication in iNaturalist about that. Raising public awareness. So one of the things we are doing, again, not a regulated pest, but a lot of work being done to raise public awareness of the risk of moving infested boxwood, which is essential to help control the spread of box tree moth in Canada. We're helping determine the extent of the distribution. CFA encourages stakeholders to submit samples of pests they observe on boxwood plants to their local offices, and that information is going to help to evaluate the threat and direct next steps for Canada. And of course, nurseries are active in surveillance in the provinces of Ontario, BC, and Quebec, in addition to the community science trapping network. So a lot of work underway on box tree moth. I didn't think we could get away without having a little bit of a mention of potato wort. So potato wort is established on our east coast, so the whole provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador, and also on the island of Prince Edward Island. So those are the two regulated areas of Canada. Potato wort has been in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador since 1909. It was found on Prince Edward Island in the year 2000, where there are 1,176 acres of index land, which are regulated on a field-by-field basis. We have an export program wherein we have annual surveillance where all export fields are tested, and that's based on a 2015 US federal order. We also have our domestic regulatory program where we have the potato wort long-term domestic management plan, where it's continued surveillance on regulated fields, assessments, and research. We did detect potato wort, so we hadn't detected potato wort for quite some time, since 2014, but we did detect potato wort during our 2020 survey. We had 2 samples, one from each of 2 fields on one farm that contained a very small number of potato wort spores. We did take immediate action, tracing back and forward with no source or spread of potato wort identified from the fields at this time. We will continue, of course, that work. It's good news and bad news when we can't find the source. So we will be continuing to look for that in the coming year. And our potato wort long-term domestic management plan and program was applied, and additional fields have been regulated according to that plan. And I'm running out of time. Potato cyst nematode, we have some areas, small areas of potato cyst nematode in addition to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. But just the good news, we're down to 3 areas in Canada versus previously 4. We had a suspect field in Spruce Grove, Alberta. That was 98 acres, and it's been released according to the, using the PCN guidelines. In our 2020, just as a note, in our 2020 PCN survey, PCN was not detected, and we're continuing to work with USDA to update the 2014 PCN guidelines, section 8. And the final good news, Asian longhorn beetle, we had a tiny area of Asian longhorn beetle that we were working on down around the Toronto area. It was first detected in Toronto in 2003 and eradicated, second detected again in August of 2013, and approximately 20 square kilometers were regulated. The good news, wanted to end with this because the Asian longhorn beetle was declared eradicated from Canada on June the 9th of 2020. So very happy to be able to announce that. So closing thoughts, and I believe I'm right out of time. So always Canada-US cooperation, collaboration, information sharing are key to keeping plant pests out of North America and keeping them from moving around. And so we always are looking for ways to create win-win situations in our plant protection context and to work with colleagues in the United States to achieve that in North American Fortress North America for plant health. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. I was going to say there were a few questions in the chat, both about eradication methods for either Japanese beetle or European cherry fruit fly. If you would like to answer those in the chat, or if you just want to wait, we can do those at the 4:40 time period, whichever works better for you.
Okay, I can jump in the chat and see what I can do.
Sounds great.